Hey guys, it's Drew Sabula here. I chose the topic of mead making after we went to Brothers Drake. I've brewed beer before, so I was pretty interested in different things about the process and things like that. So it really mm, got my gears turning. And then I found this book that really interested me, that had a lot of details that I used for a lot of this information. It's a really long book, has a ton of details. If you guys are interested, it's called The Complete Mead Maker by Ken Schramm. Just got it on Amazon and read some of it just for this assignment. I read the section focusing on the different honeys that mead makers use to make different kinds of meads, and why they use certain meads over the others, or different honeys over the others. And yeah, so I'll continue. Um, so there's a ton of different honey varieties, as you guys probably already know from lecture. There's citrus, clover, fireweed, mesquite, raspberry, sage, wildflowers, and a ton of others. And throughout the book, they just describe different effects that uh, different honeys have on the flavor that you'll get out. A lot of them they didn't really recommend. They said it just didn't really make a pleasing flavor of mead as the final product, and they really focused on a single blossom honey that was the best. Typically, the orange blossom was their favorite in the book, and yeah, I guess it just creates a more even flavor, a lot less harsh aftertaste. I guess I've never done it, but that's what they said. Um, yeah, so each honey has a different chemical makeup, different mixture, so it'll make a different flavor. Different fermentation, different amounts of sugars, things like that. And so yeah, honey varies from season to season and from nectar source to nectar source. So it's a really a unique agricultural product, and it makes it really interesting. And it's never going to be the same twice, just based on the honey. So we'll just move on. And there's a I guess I focused on the four different factors in selecting the type of honey. Uh, just they use sugar content, acidity, levels of ash as well. I'll explain that in a little bit, and then freshness, of course. The sugar content, they the industry standard is anything less than 20%. Is I think by the FDA is legally able to be sold, but mead makers want to uh, focus on this factor because uh, with honey or over 20% water, it could be contaminated by wild yeast, which could then in turn get into your mead or your must, and cause a foul taste to get into your mead. So then the other thing is that there's different ratios of sugars like sucrose, fructose, and maltose, et cetera, and based on these ratios, they're different flavors. I mean, they went through a completely wide array of different kinds of honeys and the different flavors, and it was kind of hard to decode. I think it's probably something that comes into more in time as you get experience. But yeah, closely related to sugar content is acidity. Most sugars are acidic. So yeah, so they wanted another factor was that if a honey is too acidic, that it has a very hard time being fermented. Um, it just create. I think it just creates an acidic environment for the yeast, and it's kind of hard for them to survive and really thrive. So for a yeast, the limiting factor is nitrogen. So if you have honey with a low pH or high acidity, you can add nitrogen supplements to them to encourage yeast growth. Doesn't There are other methods that they said they were trying to adjust the pH. Um, yeah, so it didn't seem very set in stone. It's just you need to measure it and keep an eye on that factor as well. Just to make sure you get a quality product in the end. Next is ash. So ash is at first I thought ash sounded kind of like, well, why would there be ash? But ash actually refers to the minerals that are distributed into the honey that originate from the nectar source, clover, yada yada, all the things. Yeah, so there's copper, iron, manganese, and obviously, just like we have minerals in our water that give it a unique taste, we've got uh, it does the same thing to honey, and then from the honey it gets it's transferred to the mead, so it really gives it a unique taste. So they really stress that things like wildflower honey is avoided because of their wide variety of these ash material or these ash minerals. So just like they said, they liked single blossom honeys. I think that is just based on the fact that they don't have a lot of different types of these ash minerals, but instead they have a one that's consistent, and it really allows the mead to be a smooth, um, yeah, it is smooth and palatable, I guess. Yeah, and just like the wildflower honey is typically dark, so uh, darker honeys normally have higher ash contents. Yeah. So yeah, and then finally the freshness. Obviously, people like things fresh. Um, yeah, but the crystallization, as you guys know, honey will crystallize at 57 degrees or above. So and that really messes with your honey, and messes with the flavor that you'll get out of it for mead making. So you want to make sure you have fresh honey and it's not crystallized, or either that or you keep it stored in a pretty good place. And then also, I'm not sure if I completely 100 believe this, but in the book they said as honey ages, it will form, it not necessarily crystallize, but it forms more complex sugars, and then those more complex sugars are less easily fermented, and could just cause issues down the road when you're fermenting. Um, yeah, so we finally that's the main section of the honey that they focused on. So even though they gave all these recommendations, they said at the end, do your own thing, experiment, use different honeys, and uh, it will, no matter what, it will also always be better tasting than the cheap shots that you get at the bar. All right, well, thanks, and that was all I had, and have a good day. Bye bye.